So in this video, we're going to set up an Ubuntu server for Vapor. The first thing we're going to want to do is add the Vapor repo. So go ahead and add that. Once you've done that, you want to go ahead and install the software we're going to be using. In this case, we're installing Git, Nginx, PostgreSQL, Supervisor, Swift, and Vapor. Next, we're going to open up Xcode, and in configure.swift, we're going to add a default struct, which will store the default values. We're going to keep our code a little bit more organized this time. So we'll have our default host name of localhost, our default username, as well as the default port for Postgres. Next, we're going to update the way we get the configuration for the Postgres server connection by using environmental variables for everything. So in this case, we're going to set up a hostname environment variable. We're going to set up one for the username, the database name, the password, as well as the port number. And if they don't exist, we'll just use that default struct to pull the default values. We're still keeping in the check for the database URL, so it'll use that first if that is there. Otherwise, it will try to get the hostname, username, database name, password, and port number from the environment variables. And then we're using the optional coalesce operator to use the default values if they do not exist for hostname username. We are also going to check to see if the port number specified in the environment variable is actually a real port number. So we're doing a conversion from the string to an int. Again, we're going to set up the database and the username as we did before, creating the database, the username, and then granting the privileges. This time we're actually going to set up a password for our username just to make sure that our environment variables work correctly, since we're going to be using the password environment variable for setting up the application on Ubuntu. Next, we're going to add a Linux user. This will be the user that will run the actual application. In case you don't need to set up any specific full name or room number, any of that stuff. Once you've done that, go ahead and super user in as that specific user, and then we're going to go ahead and run git and clone the application code over. After that's done, cd into that directory and build the application. Next, we're going to set up Supervisor. This will be the service which will run the application and monitor it and make sure it works. If you look at the file, you can see the first thing we're setting up is the environment variable for the database password. Next, the actual command that will run the server, which is the Vapor command. The directory where our code was cloned to, whether to auto restart, what user is going to run the application, and then where we want our log files for both the error stream and the output stream. You can find the snippet for this configuration file in the URL located in the description below. Next, we're going to reread and update the supervisor service. So run those two subcommands, and then we should be ready to go. Next, we're going to set up our Nginx server, so go ahead and download the configuration files and move those to their respective folders. In this case, we're going to be setting up Nginx to proxy the 80 port over to our 3000 port on the local host, so that every call made to a specific domain name will go through our Vapor server setup. Go ahead and restart Nginx once you have those configuration files set up. Now we can go ahead and test our server depending on the domain name we have set up. So we have our hello call, we have our adding a to-do item call using a post, and then we can also get those items from the database using a get call to to-dos. Thank you for watching these videos, and please follow me on Twitter at LeoGDion.